Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs. Today I have for you a very cute Halloween deco mesh wreath featuring the Boo Crew and using an unpainted wood truck, Jenga blocks, and wood ovals for the characters, multiple varieties of deco mesh for color, texture, and visual interest, very cute Halloween ribbons, mesh tubing, and striped pumpkin picks from the Dollar Tree. This one was so much fun to create. I hope you feel inspired to watch step by step how I created this very cute Boo Crew deco mesh Halloween wreath. Welcome to my channel today. If you're not currently a subscriber, I hope you will consider becoming one. And as well, of course, give this video a thumbs up and leave me your comments and let me know what you think of this Halloween deco mesh wreath. I created all of the characters that go in the truck. So much fun in doing that. And here you can see a close-up of them: Frankenstein, a mummy, Dracula, and a ghost, all riding in the Boo Crew wood truck, which I'll talk more about in just a bit. So let's get busy looking at the materials that I used for this piece. This is a 14-inch wire wreath frame from the Dollar Tree. Now I have here a variety of meshes. I believe there are 6 different meshes. Now, you don't have to use 6 different meshes. You could just use 3 full rolls of 10-inch deco mesh of your choice. I just happen to have some leftover rolls from different projects, such as that one, and I wanted to just use them up, but also to create lots of visual interest and texture on this wreath. So I love these deco meshes that I have here that have the stripes on the end. I love the effect of that on a wreath. That white one is from Hobby Lobby. The orange one is from Hobby Lobby. The others, I'm sure, are from craftoutlet.com because that's primarily where I purchase my deco mesh. Now, if you get your mesh at Hobby Lobby, be sure to pick it up on the weeks that it's on sale every other week at 40% off. I'm going to be measuring out the length of my pieces of deco mesh for my bundles at 16 inches. I'm going to use 3 pieces per bundle. There are 22 bundles on this wreath. Now, anything that I refer to as far as measurements or anything in particular about the materials that I use, I'll put that in the description box. So I'm just preparing one bundle here so that you can see how I do this in case you're new to creating deco mesh bundles. So I'm going to be using, as I mentioned, 3 pieces per bundle at 16 inches. Now, I'm going to start with the curl side up. I start with my hand placed in the middle, but then I move it right out to the edges or the sides on the left and the right. And I want to create a nice tight roll. And if I put my hands out on the edges of the deco mesh, I get a more controlled, better, tighter roll. After I roll 3 times, I put a Dollar Tree clip on there, and now I'm rolling up the other side. Same thing, and then I scrunch it down the center and put a clip on it. Now for the next piece going in this bundle, notice how I start in the center, then I move my hands out to the edges on the sides. Roll it under, move my hands out, and roll it up 3 to 4 times. Then I just scrunch it right down the center with my fingertips and place a clip on it. And this is the 3rd piece that's going to go in this bundle. Start the roll, move your hands out, and roll it up. And scrunch and clip. Now all 3 of these are going to go together in a bundle. Now, I really mixed mine up, but if you use just 3 rolls of deco mesh, 3 different types, you won't have to do that, but I would recommend just kind of changing the order in which you stack them just to, get a variety. Now, notice here, I make sure that my deco mesh bundles are all collected, that I don't have any wonky ends sticking out, and I just get all of that in order, and I crisscross them in an X pattern, and I stack them. I wrap a half of a pipe cleaner around again. Use pipe cleaners that coordinate with your project. I'm a big advocate of that. It drives me crazy when I see people making a wreath with like a completely contrary color. It's just one of my little pet peeves. So look how pretty that mesh bundle is. And I have a whole lot more coming up just like that. I really mix it up. Obviously, using 6 different deco meshes, I had to concentrate on that. Now, this is that pretty deco mesh that they do carry at Hobby Lobby. One of my absolute favorites. I use it year-round. Now, I am going to add a little bit of silver on my wreath because I'm going to be painting that wood truck, and I painted the wheels of the wood truck with a silver metallic. So I'm just going to be pulling all of the colors together that I use throughout my wreath in my deco mesh. So now I'm working on another bundle. So I'm going to roll it under like I mentioned, starting in the middle, moving your hands out to the edges or the tips or the sides, placing a clip, turning it around again. Same thing. I always like to start with a straight edge, so that's what you see me doing there. Roll it under, nice and tight, 3 to 4 times, scrunch down the center with my fingertips and clip it. Same thing with this one. Curl side up on that. If you're new to doing these bundles, you want to start with the curl side up. Roll it and scrunch down the center. And the last piece. I get my clips at the Dollar Tree. Very handy to have. They have 2 sizes. For these bigger bundles, I use the bigger clips. You can also use a chip clip, or you can use a clothespin. Okay, so now I'm putting together all 3 of my pieces. Notice how I put it in an X pattern. I crisscross it. And I make sure that my bundles are all collected and that I don't have any big pieces pointing out the ends of my bundles. Look how pretty that is. Now notice that I just did a bundle with just black and white and silver. I did 4 of those for my wreath. Actually, I did 5. And then all the rest of my bundles include orange. But I wanted to do just a few bundles with just black and white with a little silver on some of them. And the reason why I'm putting these on first is because they're, I do 22 bundles on this wreath, but because those are just a few bundles in one color pattern, I want to be sure that I distribute those evenly around the wreath. So I place my bundle on the wire very firmly, pull it tightly, turn it over, the wreath over, and then I twist my pipe cleaners very tightly on the wreath wire. And this way they're not going to be sliding around any more than possible. And also I will have them nice and secure on there. Now, I always say to those of you who are new doing this type of application of deco mesh to a wreath frame, at first, when you first start putting your pieces on, it will seem that they're loose or a little bit wonky. Don't worry about that. As you start to fill in your bundles, you will notice that everything comes together very beautifully and it sits very secure on your wire wreath frame. So I have those 5 pieces on now. Now I'm going to start filling in with the bundles that include orange. And I have that all mixed up. I mixed up my stripes, my striped deco mesh with my mesh that's striped on the ends. Oh, it's just really so pretty. So now that pops of orange are going to start appearing on that wreath. So I used the second and the third wire from the inside, and I just zigzag applying bundles to the second wire, then the third wire, then the second, and then the third, and a zigzag pattern. Now this is going to start filling up and be absolutely gorgeous just like that. See how my oranges are all distributed? There's going to be a lot more orange on this wreath. But for right now, this is the orange, the amount of orange you'll see. Now, I begin by recollecting, if you will, all of my bundles. I want all those curls to be collected. Anything that became uncurled while I was applying it to the wreath frame, I want to recollect it. In plain words, I want it to look just like it looked before I put it on the wreath frame. Now, I also pull my deco mesh back from the center. The reason why I do this is because I want to see a center to my wreath. And initially, it's pretty much closed up when you put those bundles on there because they're so full. So deco mesh is very compliant. You can pull it and place it wherever you want it, and it behaves beautifully. Now, I'm going to go around the back side. And I'm going to snip off my excess pipe cleaners. And I just push down the little blunt end that's there after I snip it off down inside the wreath frame. And this is to protect any surface where the wreath might be hanging. This is that wood pile truck. And notice the wood pile brand. This is the one that Hobby Lobby sells. I did not buy this very recently. I want to say it was like 6 months ago. But this truck is 12 inches long. It has a little ledge there, which is perfect for placing my characters. It's a very handsome looking truck, and it's a very sturdy piece. And it comes with some pieces that go in the back. It's actually for changing out during different holidays. So I just put those extra pieces aside. I'll use them for something else. But I'm going to show you alternatives here. This is a wood truck from the Dollar Tree. Now, yes, it's a little bit smaller, but you could still use it if you can't find the wood pile truck. Just by taking that Christmas tree out of the back with a heat gun. This is another alternative. This is a galvanized metal truck from the Dollar Tree. Only issue with that is how would you get the window cut out of that? If that might be possible to do that, although at this moment, I can't think of how. But you could put Jenga blocks on the back there for that little ledge to put your characters. That would work out just fine. Again, this one's 12 inches long. Now, if you can't find this at Hobby Lobby and you're determined to have this exact truck, I would check Amazon. They carry all the wood pile brands. Just put in an appropriate search for a wood pickup truck for crafting, and I would imagine you're going to find it on there because I do often look at all the wood products just in case I can't find something at Hobby Lobby, and I'm pretty sure I've seen this wood pile truck on Amazon. Now I'm going to be using Jenga blocks. I'm going to use 2 Jenga blocks for Frankenstein, 2 for Dracula, and then 1 extra piece for popping out some ears for Frankenstein and a couple of necks. That sounded weird. Okay, I'll explain more about that later. Okay, so I'm just going to be gluing 2 together for the heads of Dracula and Frankenstein. Now, the oval pieces, I believe those are like, I want to say 2.5 inches long. I'll put that in the description box. I'm going to have to measure that, and I'll put that in the description box. Any materials that I use and also any measurements, I put that in the description box. How am I going to cut the Jenga blocks? With miter shears. That will work fine, just as long as you have a sharp blade. I'm going to be using a Waverly chalk paint and the color ink to paint my truck. I'm going to use a silver metallic for the wheels and some of the trim. I didn't use that green. I used another one for Frankenstein. You'll see that later. Black and white paint, and also red. I like Crafter's Collection acrylics, but use any that you like. You'll need paintbrushes, of course. And here are my favorite go-to letters that I get on Amazon. This is a Rae Dunn font. They're stick-on letters, fabulous to have around. Do I have a Cricut? Yes, I do. But I like to show you how you can do projects without having a Cricut. Not everyone has one. So, there's always alternatives out there. And those stick-on letters are phenomenal. I've used them for years. I keep them on hand, and I use them often. Now, I had there some little buttons that I thought I was going to use for mummy eyes. That's a good alternative, a raised, kind of a rounded button. There'll be a lot of little material additions as I go along here in creating these characters. You're going to need a piece of white cotton fabric as well for the mummy, and to cut strips for the mummy, and for the ghost. Now I'm going to be doing some painting here, which I love to paint, so that was just fine with me. I decided I wanted my truck to be a couple of colors. Yes, it's going to look very cute like that. This is the Boo Crew pickup truck, so I can do anything I want with it. I'm going to be painting the door orange, the hood orange, and a strip on the back of the truck where the bed of the truck is. I've already painted in my black, and I put a little bit of a white shine over the top of the fenders, just with a dry brush with a little bit of white paint on it. And I'm going to be using the color pumpkin for the other orange areas of that truck. Now, I do have a couple of different paintbrushes on hand. One for doing like the more intricate painting where I need to get in tight corners and follow specific lines. Okay, look at that. The Boo Crew, that's hard to say 10 times really fast. Not that you need to, but so I painted in everything. You could see there's some little areas that I painted in orange there at the bottom. Now I'm going to take my silver metallic. I'm going to paint the wheels, not the tires. The tires are black. I painted the wheels silver, a piece of the chrome across the bottom silver, and a little bit of trim on the bumper and on the door handle. Now I did make a little addition to those tires you'll see later with a wood half round. I'll talk about that in a minute. For the window, I just mixed a touch of black in a little bit of white paint to create like a light gray. I did add a touch of silver, and I'm just going to paint the window of the truck. Now, if you use one of the trucks from the Dollar Tree, you can improvise and do the painting as you like. But it does have potential, those two trucks, if you can't find this one in particular. I know it can be frustrating when you're trying to find materials that you would like for a piece, but often there are alternatives, and those Dollar Tree trucks could be alternatives. I have here some wood half rounds. They're like, I want to say 1/4 inch. And one of them is white there. I must have used it on a previous project. And I'm just going to paint them black. Now this is going to be another little dimension element on this truck. This truck kind of has layers. The bumpers are layered onto that piece. And this is really a very cute truck. And I hope you could find it at Hobby Lobby or on Amazon. Okay, I'm going to be placing my letters on. And of course, I made sure my paint was dry. And I'm going to just be peeling those letters off. These stick very well. They're awesome. There's a number of stores that sell these on Amazon. Be sure that you get the packet with 2 different sizes. I'm using the smaller size in that packet on this piece. Now I'm going to start with Boo here at the top of the door and making sure that I'm leaving enough room at the bottom for Crew. I'm going to center Boo on there. Then I'm going to center Crew underneath it. That's 4 letters, so I do have to be mindful to center that. I always start with my center letter. And then I just go to the left and to the right to complete the word. And they just stick on. I don't see any need to do anything further. If you want, you could put Mod Podge over, but I just don't see the need. But if you do have a Cricut, of course, yeah, you could do your letters on your Cricut. Otherwise, I'm sure you could find some stick-on letters at any craft store. Hobby Lobby has a good assortment of stick-on letters. I don't think they have the Ray Dunn font, but you could get something to suffice. I think that particular font looks really great on this Halloween-themed wreath. So I'm going to put a little bit of Aleene's Tacky Glue, and I'm going to pop those 2 wood half rounds that I painted right on the wheel. Doesn't that look nice? Little details like that really add to a piece. Now see how nice that looks? It's coming along beautifully. Now, I'm going to do something. You can do this or not do this, okay? But I wanted my truck to have a little bit of whimsical look to it. So I'm taking my very fine tip paintbrush, fine point paintbrush, and I'm dipping it in white acrylic paint, and I am drawing squiggle lines around different parts of my truck. I did it around the bumper. I did it over the hood of the cab. I did it around the door, and I did it across the back on that orange piece that lines the bed of the truck. Now, like I said, you could do this or not do this, but I'm telling you, it adds a very cute element to this piece. So just squiggle lines, nothing artistic about it. You just draw some squiggle lines, and it's not even continuous, just little bits of squiggle lines. Like I said, you may like this or you may not, but I think it really added a really cute touch to the truck. So it's coming along. Oh, it's becoming very cute, this truck. Now, really not sure. I wasn't coming up with any other ideas for placing the Boo Crew, something to place them in. So the truck just kept coming to mind. And so, I remembered that I had this truck in my woodcraft stash. And yeah, I took advantage of it. Putting on those squiggle lines across the back now. This really adds a visual interest to this piece. Maybe you have another idea for some type of painted trim that you could put on yours. But see how cute that looks? At least I think so. Now on my wood truck, or in my wood truck, I'm going to place a character in the window and then 3 characters across the back. Frankenstein, Dracula, a mummy, and a ghost. Now, you could use any characters that you like, any Halloween characters, or you could just use 4 ghosts. Or if you're using the Dollar Tree truck, you could use 3 ghosts. That would work out just fine. You could put different faces on them. Maybe put a bow on one of the heads of the ghost. You know, change it up. Make them look a little bit different if you use all ghosts. Just to make them cute, of course. So continuing on here with my little squiggle lines. I've been getting requests to do a painting video on how I create faces. In particular, eyes and the mouths. And I am going to do that very soon. Within the next week, I'm going to show you that because now is a great time to do it because of Christmas coming up. I'm going to start Christmas decor starting next week. So I'm going to go ahead and do a short video showing how I paint faces for those of you who are interested. I'm going to cut an angle across the top of 2 of my Jenga blocks. This is going to be the head of Dracula. Now, you can cut these Jenga blocks with miter shears. I don't know how else I would get those cut. If you know somebody who's good with maybe, I don't know, that's a pretty small surface to be cutting on. I just use miter shears. It works great. So you can see there, I just have those little peaks, and that's the top of the head of Dracula. I'm going to be gluing that together for the head. I also have there a 1/8 of an inch wood half round. That's going to be the ears. I'm just going to be gluing that onto the sides of the head. So now, as you can see, we're starting the characters here. This is going to be the Frankenstein head. So I'm sticking with that box shape. Now, you can see here I'm cutting little bits of just a little piece. I want to say it's not even 1/8 of an inch, maybe less, for the ears, which I'm going to keep square for now, to put on Frankenstein's head. Now, these heads are just going to be poking up out of the truck. So the neck is going to be pretty short, and it's not really going to be seen very much by Frankenstein with the Frankenstein. So I didn't yet put any bolts in the neck. I did cut a little piece of Jenga block to add a neck to Dracula and to Frankenstein. I'm just using Aleene's Tacky Glue here to glue the head together and the square ears on the head. Now, toward the end of the video, I made a little change to the ears. Not in that I took the ears off, but I did round them out using a black paint to make them look rounded. You'll see that, or more in the shape of an ear, really. But as far as the bolt in the neck, now I was, you know what's so funny? While I was doing this with Frankenstein, I just kept thinking of that show that was on TV when I was a young girl, The Munsters. Do you all remember that? Oh, I used to love that show. And I could still hear Herman Munster with that fun laugh that he had. Do y'all remember that? Well, anyway, I kept trying to remember what he looked like because he was such a great-looking Frankenstein character. And he had the bolts in the neck. But like I said, hardly any of the neck is actually showing on this Frankenstein, because the idea was just to have the characters' heads popping up out of the truck. Not to say that you couldn't make them taller and poking up with more neck. If you want to do that, I would suggest using maybe a little tiny bead for each side of the neck to create the bolt look on the neck. Okay, so I have everything all glued together here with regard to Dracula and Frankenstein's head. Just using Aleene's Tacky. And then I glued on a little piece. I want to say that maybe not even, maybe half an inch. And that's going to sit down on that ledge in back of the bed of the truck. Now, I have a piece of fabric here. It's just a piece of cotton fabric. I didn't have white, so I had to use an off-white. I'm cutting very narrow strips, maybe 1/4 of an inch. They're about 6 inches long. And then I'm going to take my little picker tool and I'm going to fray them a bit. This is for the mummy. Now, I wanted the mummy to have like little frayed pieces because a mummy doesn't have a nice, neat wrapping, right? It's more frayed and weathered and rustic looking. So I'm just going to fray out each side of my strips. This doesn't take that long, and it's a nice little added touch. So I'm just picking at the threads of that fabric and then just pulling it a bit just to get a little bit of a frayed look, which you can see right there in my hand. Now, what I'm going to be doing with this is wrapping the mummy, obviously, with those paint strips. I guess now I'm gluing that on there. Now, for my ovals, I'm going to be cutting those off, a straight blunt cut across the bottom. And you'll see me doing that here in just a bit because those both are going to either be setting on the ledge. At this point, I hadn't decided what order I was placing the characters on the truck. So I wasn't sure who was going to go on the inside. You can see I'm contemplating that right now. But I do cut that blunt end because I only need for the ghost and the mummy, maybe from like the waist up. So right now I'm deciding how much do I need to cut off. So I'm going to put that measurement of that oval. I want to say it might be 3 inches or 2.5. I'll put it in the description box, as I mentioned. Can't remember at the moment. So I put that in my miter shears and I just pop the bottom of that off. Don't be surprised when you're cutting these wood pieces if it flies across the room. That's what happens when you're cutting wood with miter shears. So I want to say I cut off maybe like 1/2 inch, maybe a little more, maybe 3/4 of an inch off the bottom of there. And I have a nice straight cut, so that's going to sit nicely on that ledge. So that's for my mummy and my ghost. Okay, so I started out thinking I was going to use felt on this ghost. My particular piece of felt was not one of the more soft, pliable pieces of felt that you can get at some craft stores. This happened to be a very sturdy, firm piece of felt, so it didn't really work out. But I'm going to say if you get one of the more inexpensive, lighter weight pieces of felt, it would probably work because it would be more pliable. This came from Hobby Lobby. They have very nice quality felt there. So I ended up having to switch to a piece of fabric, of which I did not have white. Again, I had to use the off-white. But I came up with a solution for that. I dry brushed white paint over both my mummy and my ghost after I had it all put together. And that also gave a little bit of a rustic look. And let's be real. Ghosts and mummies aren't a perfect white, so that's okay. So I was going to use felt for my eyes and my mouth, but then I decided to be a little more creative and paint the faces on. You'll see that later. Now for this one oval. This is the mummy here. I'm just going to paint the sides and the top. You're not going to see the back of these characters at all, so I'm not worried about anything on the back finished. They're going to be completely hidden behind all that deco mesh on that wreath, so you will never see it. So I just wanted a white base so that just in the event that after I wrapped all of those strips of fabric around that mummy, just in case you could see through it at all, you would not see wood, you would just see the white paint. All right, so I drew on the face of my Dracula. So I'm going to show you how I did that. I made sure to include my little sideburns, and then I did a widow's peak right in the center. And I created a sideburn on the other side. I go a little bit below the ears with the point of my sideburn. Then I'm just going to do some eyes, which I just did 2 ovals, and I had the eyes touching each other. I popped in a couple of eyeballs, a couple of eyebrows, and then I did a straight curved mouth, not squiggled, and I added 2 pointy teeth. I gave him a little bit of a curve at the corners of the mouth because this is a cute Dracula. In fact, my Dracula actually gets rosy cheeks, so you'll see that later. All right, here's the Frankenstein. Now, I just drew some little points for the hair, and I drew 2 round circles that touch each other for the eyes. And then I drew across half of the eye an eyelid. And then I drew an oval for the nose, and I made that horizontal. A squiggly mouth with curves on the sides of the mouth. Now, if you want to look at other Frankenstein faces, just go ahead on Pinterest and search that, and you'll come up with a whole lot of them. So I have everything drawn on in pencil, and you know, if you follow my channel, I always do that because you can use the pencil eraser to correct anything that you are not happy with when you put it on. You don't want to start painting first. That could be a recipe for disaster. You don't want to do that first. Sometimes you can cover up a mess like that, but sometimes you can't. So I have this paint. It's kind of a mossy green. Now, I've seen Frankenstein with different color of faces, anything from gray to purplish, orchid, and I've seen it green. I decided to do mine green, but, you know, you could do it in another color. You could do it in kind of an orchid color. It's up to you. You can go any direction with this, but often you'll see Frankenstein in green colors. But yeah, you do you. I thought about orchid, but I ended up doing green. I think he's super cute like that. Yeah, this is your piece and your interpretation, just as it is mine. So yeah, this is what I decided to do. So for the face of my Dracula, I just put a touch of black paint in a dab of white paint, and I mixed it together and created a light gray shade. Now I'm going to go around, paint the ears and the face of my Dracula. Now, because I already drew on this design for the face, I didn't want to then just cover it up. So with my fine point paintbrush, I went around the lines just to kind of preserve them. So just in case the paint would have covered those lines up, I just wanted to be sure that I preserved them. So I kind of painted around them just so I could continue to see the mouth and the eyes and the line of the hair. Okay, so I painted those in, and now you can see Dracula's face and the mummy, I'm sorry, not the mummy, Frankenstein are all ready to go to start putting on the features. Now I'm going to use a fine point paintbrush to paint in Dracula's sideburns and then his hair. Of course, I paint the top as well because you may be able to see that. on the wreath. Then after that, I'm going to paint in the eyeballs, the mouth, and I'm going to outline the nose and add some little eyebrows. Now, this is where a fine point paintbrush comes in very handy. In fact, it's imperative. Nothing more frustrating than having a paintbrush with stray hairs on it, if you will, or bristles, and trying to accomplish tiny tasks. So every other week, Hobby Lobby's paintbrushes are on sale, and they are, probably certainly more than a Dollar Tree paintbrush, but you can't use Dollar Tree paintbrushes on this kind of task when you're painting fine lines. So I pick up my paintbrushes there. I want to say a fine point one is around $5. But then if you get it 40% off, you're talking very little money and a lot of frustration that you don't have to endure if you just pick up a paintbrush that helps you in your projects. Okay, so you can see I have those features painted on. Super cute. Now I have to paint the top of the hair there. I'm pointing that out. Why I didn't do it initially, I don't know. Okay, so now it looks like we're going to paint in some eyeballs. So, any outlining that needed to be done on that Frankenstein was around the eyeballs. I think I put eyebrows on him. And, that's what I did. Okay, so my characters are coming along. They're so cute. I painted the teeth on my Dracula. Look how cute that is. Now, I still need to outline the eyeballs I see there. And let's see. Looks like I did so. Oh, look how cute he is. He doesn't look very scary at all, Dracula. But that's the idea of this piece. I'm donating this one to the Quantum House. And for those of you who do not follow my channel, if maybe watching for the first time, I donate most of my pieces that I do on my channel to a facility that houses families that have a child in the family that's being treated for a serious medical condition at the nearby hospital. The facility is on the hospital campus, and it's like a Ronald McDonald House. And they just love when I bring them my projects to decorate the facility. And the children love it, so I understand. As well as the adults. Okay, so look what I'm doing. I'm painting rosy cheeks on my Dracula. And he just became so cute. And believe it or not, Frankenstein, yep, he's getting rosy cheeks as well. I just dip my paintbrush. I use kind of a bristly, flat end brush, and I dip it in my paint, and then I dry brush it almost completely dry on a paper towel, and then in a circular motion I just put on my cheeks. Now, believe it or not, is he cute or what? Believe it or not, I put rosy cheeks on my ghost and on my mummy because, these characters are just meant to be cute, and it's just my interpretation of them. And you do yours. I have here some oval Google eyes. You could pick these up at any craft store, or I'm sure on Amazon. And I like the oval ones for this project. You could use round, that would be fine. But I'm using oval ones, and I'm placing them horizontally on the face. I think that's the way they'll look best, peeking out through the fabric that I'm going to be wrapping on my mummy to create that look of a mummy. Now, remember, I have the little fringes, the little frayed ends there. I'm going to just take strips and place them across the mummy. I'm going to crisscross them. I'm going to make them go a little bit over the eye so it looks like he's peeking out through the strips of fabric. You could use gauze for this, would look great. I didn't happen to have any, but like the kind of gauze that comes on a roll, that will look really awesome on here. Now, my fabric is a little bit off-white. As I mentioned before, when I'm done with my ghost and my mummy, I'm going to take a paintbrush and just dry brush over these two characters with white. And that actually creates a nice look because mummies are not perfectly white, as far as I know, and neither are ghosts. So, yeah, I'm just going to be doing that. So you could see I'm just continuing on here, placing all my strips. I think I used like 6 strips. And all of them are frayed. And just notice how I crisscross them. I wanted to look kind of a messy look of those strips going around that mummy. So I just use hot glue, placing it right there. Now, again, you're not going to see the back, so who cares how messy it looks. It's going to be completely hidden. And I just continue to wrap that until I'm satisfied with the look. Now, again, you could do any characters that you want. You could even do a black cat. You could even do a funny pumpkin. You could make your Boo Crew consist of whatever characters that you like. This is just a fun piece. There's no rules, obviously. Just have fun with it. Because I certainly did. This was really a fun piece. Something different. I've never done this before. I have done wooden spoons in Halloween characters. That was fun as well. I love to paint wooden spoons for the holidays. I don't think I've done that yet on my channel, but probably I will at some point. But they're fun because you can get a cute crock to put them in and put them out for all of the respective holidays. Halloween, Easter, Christmas. Yeah, I love to do that. Okay, so speaking of dry brushing white on, that's what I'm doing here. So I just take kind of a bristly brush and I'm just going to dry brush over those 2 pieces, the mummy and the ghost. That's cute. See his eyes peeking out there? That looks cute. Now, the mummy is relatively simple, and of course the ghost is as well. And I decided later on, after I saw the 2 other characters that had the rosy cheeks and the smiles, I thought, you know what? I'm going to make them all smiling with rosy cheeks. So that's what I did. And I think it turned out super cute. And I think that these characters are really what took a good amount of time. But if you're a crafter who loves to do details and loves the effect of detail on a project, you're going to love this one. All right, I'm going to do the ghost now. Now I'm using this lightweight cotton fabric, and I put a little dab of glue on the top of the head, and this is going to help me to create the look I want for my ghost. If I secure it on the top, then it will sit there nicely, and then I can work around the ghost, creating the pleats as I would like them to be, so that it looks like a ghost. Now, you're going to obviously have to fold that fabric under. I used my hot glue to help me once I determined where I wanted my pleats to get the look that I wanted. Then I just used hot glue to help me to accomplish that. I was mindful to keep a little space on the top of the head to put the face, because if I had too many pleats there in that area, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish the face. Now, again, here I'm still thinking, do I want to use felt or do I not want to use felt? And I decided not to. It is an option if you don't want to paint. You do you, whatever you like. That's a really cute look for ghosts. So up to you. So now I'm just trimming down my fabric so that it's flush with the bottom of my wood piece. At this point, I still wasn't certain exactly where I was going to place my characters. So I wanted to make sure that I had a nice straight bottom to all of my characters so that I could glue it to that ledge that is in the back of the truck. Again, if you get a Dollar Tree truck, you can put your own ledge on there with a couple of Jenga blocks, and that will work just fine. Or you could just glue it to the back of the truck. But I placed mine on the ledge and I glued it down to the ledge. So you can see I'm continuing here, just trying to make my ghost look like a ghost. Should not be this difficult, but I'm turning it into something that's taking a little bit longer. I did decide that my ghost was a female later on, and I created a little bow for the top of the head out of a little piece of orange twine. You're going to see me do that here in just a bit. Now, when I go to paint the mouth, draw the mouth on the mummy and draw the features on the ghost, I did use a pencil. I always do that. That way, I don't have any issues when I go to paint. I know exactly what I need to do. So now I'm just dry brushing some paint on my ghost. This makes it look a little bit rustic and textured. And then, of course, I'll use my fine point paintbrush again to paint the features on my ghost. So I decided, you can see here, I'm still determining where am I going to put my characters. So I'm just placing them here and there to see what I like the best. And I ended up putting the ghost inside the truck, peeking out through the window. And so now I'm going to draw my mouth on. I think I did a squiggle line on the mummy with a little bit of a curve on the mouth. And then I'll just use my fine tip paintbrush to paint that black. And then for the ghost, I decided to do the eyes that I always do when I place the two parallel lines and attach a teardrop shape, and then draw in the eyeball, a couple of eyebrows, and some lashes. And then I did a squiggle mouth on my ghost as well. Now, these are very tiny features, so that fine point paintbrush is going to come in very handy here. I'm going to use an acrylic on this. The chalk paint, I don't know about your chalk paint, but mine always tends to get thick, and which I like for certain things, but certainly not for painting features. I like my paint to be a little more runny than anything so that it glides on smoothly, especially when you're painting on fabric. So I am just painting on the features of my ghost. I'm doing a squiggle mouth right there. Hard to show you these little tiny features. At the same time, I'm doing it because I need to be, have them close to me. But super easy to do. And again, if you need to look at examples of different types of whimsical features to put on characters, go on Pinterest. There's no lack of that kind of thing on Pinterest, and it can really help you. So there's the mouth on my mummy, and I think I still have to put the rosy cheeks on, But we are almost done with the characters. Now, these characters don't take that long, but like I said, they are a little more timely to do because they're more intricate, but well worth it. Yep, here comes the cheeks. I want to get most of the paint off your paintbrush. You don't want a red blob to be deposited on the cheeks of your characters. So really work your paintbrush into the paper towel. And now I'm going to go on the cheeks, do a little circular motion. And my ghost has rosy cheeks now. And that was a super cute touch on this ghost. Okay, so next, I believe they are finished now. Next, we're going to be placing them on the truck. But first, I'm going to do that little twine. It's so tiny, this bow. I just folded over, made a little loop, and then put a dab of glue to hold the loop down. Created another loop, a dab of glue to hold that down, and that's it. I didn't even tie it into a knot. I just shaped it because it was so small. I just folded that loop over and then glued that down. And so that's good enough to create a little orange pop of color on the top of the head of my ghost. I'm going to glue that to the head of the ghost on the upper left side of the head. And I ended up, as I mentioned, putting her inside of the truck, and then I put my other characters along the back of the truck, sitting on the ledge. Now I'm curious to know what characters you would put on your Boo Crew truck. Let me know in the comments. Okay, I had a couple of little features that I wanted to add to my truck, and they're very minor, but I'm a little bit fanatical on the way when I want something. I want a particular look. I'm just going to have a particular look. So I'm taking a fine point Sharpie marker here, just putting some defining lines on the bottom of the door, adding a door lock. Yes, I did. I added a door lock. A little bit of lines on that little bit of trim there on the truck. Little details, I always say, make a difference. So don't skip them. If you're a person who likes a detailed piece, as I said, you are in the right place, because yeah, I like to include as much detail as possible. It ultimately just creates a beautiful piece, and with lots of visual interest, and I think this truck has it. Okay, so I'm going to go about trying on my characters to see where do I want them. And this one I decided goes on the inside, so it doesn't have a ledge on the back side of the door, so I don't really need it. I'm just going to take my ghost and put a little hot glue on the bottom of the ghost, position it in the window, and that will be that. Still undecided here, I see. Putting that, I'm trying to decide where I want everything, but then, yeah, it's going in the window. And there she is, peeking out of the window with her cute little smile, her little rosy cheeks, and her very cute eyes. All right, so now I'm going to decide what order I'm going to place these, and I decide Dracula is going to sit right there. I'm going to take some hot glue. Sorry, my hand's a little out of frame, but you'll see here. There. I place it right on the ledge. See how perfect that is? And then I'm going to place the mummy right next to it, a dab of glue along the bottom, and then just a touch right along the bottom of the mummy to stick to the wood of the truck. And then Frankenstein goes in the back. Now, like I said, you don't really see much at all of his neck, but if you want a longer neck so that you can put those bolts showing, just make the Jenga block a little bit longer and then put a couple of little tiny beads on each side of the neck, and then you will have that look of the bolt on the side of the neck. And here it is. Look how cute. I'm loving this piece. First time I've ever done this type of piece, and I'm very happy with it. Okay, now I have to attach this piece to my wreath, so I'm going to take 2 full-size pipe cleaners, and I'm going to position them on each side of the truck, the front and the bumper. I'm going to put a row of hot glue there, pop my pipe cleaners down in there, and additionally, I'm going to put a little piece of felt over the top of that pipe cleaner. I don't really expect it to go anywhere, but why not just put the added security? So I hot glue that down, and now my sign, my truck, is ready to attach to the wire wreath frame. Okay, now it's ready to go on the wreath. Now, I placed it on the wreath, but not right directly down the center. I wanted it to look like the truck was resting on the deco mesh. So I set it like right at the top of where the deco mesh started. So it's a little bit more inferior or lower on the wreath than the center. So I'm just reaching my fingers through the deco mesh, finding a wreath wire, wrapping it around. I don't want to smash my truck down into the deco mesh, so it's basically kind of sitting on top. So I twist my wires of my my pipe cleaners so that I don't push it down too far into the deco mesh. Now that was my preference on this piece. And then I want to make sure it's straight, of course, so be careful when you're wrapping it around the wires that you keep it straight on the piece. Now, this is so cute. It has plenty of orange, but it's about to get more. I'm going to create some ribbon bundles. I have 2 ribbons here, one of which is from the Dollar Tree. It's a Halloween ribbon, obviously. I'm going to cut my ribbon in 12-inch long pieces. Now, I'm going to pair up that orange with that very cute ghost ribbon that you see there on the table. And I'm going to create ribbon bundles. I created 5 of these, reason being because that's all I had left on that orange ribbon spool. But it was enough. It was enough. So I created 5 ribbon bundles, and this is, of course, a 2.5-inch ribbon. So I was able to get 5. Now I'm going to cut 5 pieces of the ghost ribbon, which is a really awesome, very, very firm ribbon. I used this on a previous project, and it's a super quality ribbon. Look at the cute ghosts on there. So I'm just going to pair those 2 up. I can't talk. Pair those 2 up, and I'm going to attach them together with a half of a pipe cleaner, a black one. So I'm cutting 5 of those, and I'm going to place one on top of the other. I do change it up, putting the ghost on top, then I put it on the bottom, etc. I'm also going to be using black mesh tubing on this piece. This is from the Dollar Tree. I love mesh tubing on a wreath like this. I'm going to create some bundles with that, but it's not going to be included in this ribbon bundle. I pinch it in the center, take a half a pipe cleaner, wrap it around the back, because I want that bundle to sit with the right side of the ribbon facing up, so I make sure I twist my pipe cleaner on the back. Now I'm going to dovetail the ends. I do this on ribbon bundles. Now I cut my ribbon lengths in 12 inches because I am not a fan, just a personal preference, of long tails of ribbon bundles to be coming up out of the wreath and then laying over the deco mesh. My preference is to just have them peeking up out of the deco mesh. So if you want them longer, cut them in maybe 14 inches or whatever your preference is. Now for my mesh tubing, I'm just creating figure 8 loops. And then I'm going to place a half a pipe cleaner around there. I'm going to leave about a 6-inch tail. Just the same as I like my ribbon tails poking up out of my deco mesh, I like the tails of my mesh tubing bundles to be poking up out of the deco mesh. That's a look that I really, really like. I'm going to create 6 mesh tubing bundles that I'm going to just place symmetrically around the wreath. Now, what I like to do is set them on there. Now, because I have 5, I'm going to put 1 at 6, 1 at around 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, and then 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock, if that makes sense. I think of my wreath as like a clock. Okay, so I'm going to reach my fingers through the deco mesh and attach to the wreath wire. This is very easy to do. Now, I do have to go around later and clean up any of those excess tails that I'm creating there on the back of the wreath. Now, I'm going to arrange my ribbons to poke up. See how they just poke up out of the deco mesh, and the ribbons do not lay over the deco mesh. It's just the way I like to do it. Then I'm going to take my mesh tubing bundles and place those in between the areas where I placed my ribbon bundles. Now I have these picks from the Dollar Tree. I love these striped picks. I have orange ones and I have black and white ones. Orange and black and white. I really like these. They have a little stem on them. I just think they're super cute for anything Halloween. So I'm going to snip those with my wire cutters off the stem. And I believed I used about a total of 3 stems of these black and white. And then I think I only had 2 stems of the orange, but I utilized them all over the wreath. And I'm going to place them symmetrically all around. And those are a really cute addition and add more visual interest to this piece. Notice there is no bow on this piece, except for a little bow that I put on the truck. Yeah, that's highly unusual for me, but I think this wreath has enough visual interest that I don't really need to do that, and I don't want to take away from the visual interest of the truck. So I'm putting lots of other elements. Now I'm showing you here, you could use, if you can't get that wood pile pickup truck, you could use one of these Dollar Tree ones. It will look fine on that wreath, and it will not look lost on there. It will be big enough. Maybe you could even add some type of little wood piece to the back of the truck if you use that wood piece to add length to it. I'm just thinking out loud here, but maybe you could increase the length of the piece just by using some type of little wood pieces. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to put my orange and black stripe. Now, I put a black and white tinsely pumpkin on each side of my wreath. I had those left over from a stem that I purchased on clearance at Joann's last year. And I've been waiting for an opportunity to use them, and I think this wreath is a great one. So it's bigger than the striped pumpkins from Dollar Tree, but I'm popping it on each side of the wreath right around 3 to 4 o'clock and 8 to 9 o'clock. Now, I have my little bow maker here. I featured this on a previous video. I designed this, and I had my son kindly made it for me, and he made it so beautifully. And it just has wooden dowels placed at different widths. I even have it marked, the widths. And I just wrap my piece of ribbon around and fold it over and tie a knot on the bottom. Now, this is a great way to make finished little bows. And the great thing about it is your ribbon, if you do it properly, all of your ribbons will be facing the correct direction when you're done with your bow. One of the great reasons why I created this piece. Okay, so now I have a little bow. Now that narrow ribbon came from Dollar Tree, and I just felt that the truck needed a little something on the back. Little bit of pops of color, and this ribbon has it. It has the green, the same green as the Frankenstein. It has some orange and white. I'm just tacking down my bow loops there to keep them in place. And I like that little addition to the piece. I'm going to trim off my tails at an angle here. And I like that little addition to the piece. Now, that's it for this wreath. It's very busy and very fun and very colorful with lots of texture and detail. Tell me what you think of this one. And let me know what characters would you use? What colors would you do it in? A super cute piece. Now, I do have to put a hanger on here. I use a full-size pipe cleaner always. And I place my pipe cleaner around the first two wires of the wreath frame. Bring it around, and then I'm going to twist it against the wreath frame, like so. Then I take the excess tails of my pipe cleaner, and I form a teardrop shape. And then I crisscross it, and then I just wrap the tails of the loop around the actual teardrop hanger. I always put a looped hanger on all of my wreaths, whether I take it to the Quantum House or I give it to someone, because this is an indicator of how to hang the wreath. And you might think that's a simple thing, but I see people taking my wreaths and hanging them sideways and crooked and, oh my goodness, all kinds of things. So I always tell everyone, hang it by the loop. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Okay, so now I'm cleaning up the back of my wreath from all of those ribbon bundles and mesh tubing bundles. I make sure that I have it twisted nice and tight before I go cutting it off, just in case I didn't do too much of a twist initially. And there's the transformation of the ears. I just took a little paint on those square ears, and I just rounded out the ears by using some black paint. And there's all of my characters. And I am just loving this piece. Let me know what you think of this one. I think I may have forgotten to put music on this last clip, but really, does it matter? No, it doesn't. I'm kind of a person who doesn't really like a lot of music in a video anyway, so I find it distracting, but in the end, I like to put music, and I think I forgot, but I'm sure you'll forgive me for that. Okay, let me know what you think of this one. Remember to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. And until next time, you all take care.